Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out AmItheA whole. Story 1. AITA for refusing to watch my teacher's baby. English is not my first language, please excuse any grammar errors. I go to a technical school as a part of a program that my school has. One of my instructors always has her baby with her. Usually, I don't mind the baby as long as I don't have to look at them or hold them. Lately, my instructor has started asking students to keep an eye on them if she has to leave the class for any reason. I sit right next to her desk and she has not asked me until now. I had finished my work early and was working on a project for another class. She had asked me to watch him so that she could take a few documents down to the office, and I refused because I wanted to get the project done, along with some extra credit assignments for my other classes. I had explained this to her, and she ended up giving me a dirty look and ended up giving the baby to a student teacher to watch. AITA. Story 2. AITA for continuing to talk to a guy. Hi, I'm 17, and I have a story. Sorry if this is long, it needs the background. I talked to a guy for about a month, we will call him S. Me and S were fine for the first 2-ish weeks, but after S went to homecoming, a school dance, with a different girl we will call her ES had asked E before he knew me. I was annoyed but I decided to let it go and not get mad. Almost a month later I found out that S and E were allegedly dating. Even though he told me they were friends since childhood and E was asked as a dare by SS friends. By this time me and S had gotten in a few fights and were not talking. I still wanted to know if they were supposedly dating. So my friend and I did some digging and found the E's Instagram. S never tagged E in photos. I decided to DM her and ask her for the truth that S wasn't giving me. She told me, and I quote, S was going to ask me to be his girlfriend a few days before we broke things off. When I was talking with ES and I were talking and decided to be on good terms cause he said that he didn't want to fight anymore. S and E go to a different school and normally that would mean that I would never see S or E again, but I unfortunately go to youth group every Wednesday with a friend and that was how S and I met. After this most recent youth group, yesterday, I messaged him because I thought S, a friend, and the 20YR leader were talking about me. I sat behind S even though I would normally sit on the other side facing him. After I asked if they were talking about me and S said no. After a little small talk I said, well, thanks for clarifying, bye, and he said, just bye, I guess you really don't want to talk to me. That sparked another conversation about how I had tried to talk and he never attempted to continue the conversation. After a while I told him that if he wanted us to talk or try to create a relationship then he needed to show that and I would not allow either of us to be treated like shit. He asked for the night to think about it. After that I made the final decision that if he said no then after the final youth group of 2023 I would not be attending anymore and block him on everything. He doesn't know any of that. He hasn't texted but I will update when he does or doesn't. Story 3. AITA for disowning my little brother. So for info, my 16GF parents are divorced and have been since I was 6. My father was an extremely abusive alcoholic and starved, beat, yelled at, and treated me horribly. My 2 siblings on the other hand never felt with this. He neglected them but I made up for it and cooked, cleaned, and took care of them. Throughout my life my little brother, 13M, has always favored my father and hated my mom. My mom has never abused us. She struggled with alcoholism but no longer does and she always kept us all fed and happy. CPS was called on my dad many times but he was labeled borderline abusive and neglective. He stopped abusing me when I turned 9 but stopped celebrating my birthday from 8 to 13. I currently live with my mom, my little sister switches back and forth, and my little brother now lives with my father. Now, the reason I disowned him is because I have an abusive ex and he, on his school iPad, was found talking trash about me and my mom, labeling us as abusive bitches who deserve to be locked away. And this is important, but my father is homophobic and transphobic. My brother is trans. He is a fab. So he's only choosing to stay somewhere where he's unsafe. When he left he purposely didn't say goodbye to me or my stepdad and left. I've also found out that he's talking trash about me and my stepdad to my little sister and my father. I officially disowned him after he left, but my friends and cousins seem to think I'm wrong for doing so. So, AITA? Story 4. AITA for not letting my father borrow money. I am 38 and single and have absolutely no backup plans or ways to borrow money should I fall on hard times. My father is a functioning alcoholic that golfs multiple times a week, goes to clubs almost nightly, travels, and is into get-rich-quick schemes. Initially, I'd let him borrow money here and there. $1,200 here and $1,800 there, but then he owed me $3,000 and couldn't pay it back. It was like a revolving borrowing door. When he owed that much, he called at work and told me he needed $10,000 by the next day. I didn't have that and was astonished that anyone would ask for that. I told him to pay me back what he owed and never to ask for money again. It took 3 years, but he paid back the $3,000 and has stayed to not asking me for money, but borrowing from other family and friends routinely. Today, after 8 years and exhausting other resources, he asked for $3,000. AITA for saying no? BTW, we don't have a good relationship. Story 5. AITA for not allowing my mom and sister to drive my car. For context, I, female 27, moved back home in 2020 due to the pandemic and have since always paid my portion of bills, including rent, my own car payment, electric etc. My sister, female 16, recently got her driver license. There have been several times I've overheard my mother and sister joking about taking my car and going for a drive. The first time they asked if she could test drive it, I said no, and then everyone had an attitude with me. Recently I asked my mother if she could drop me off at my BF so I would be closer to the train station and wouldn't have to leave my car there. When it came time to leave the house, I asked if we were taking her car and she proceeded to say she did not have gas. When my car came into question, I said we could not take my car due to me not wanting to leave my keys at home. My mother continued to ask why, and I said it's because I've heard you and my sister talking about taking my car and driving it. My mother then blew up on me, calling me disrespectful and saying how could I put her in such a low category of being distrustful. She continued by saying that I couldn't take a joke and that I was rude and petty. From that point I decided to take an Uber, which made her even more mad, and she continued to call me disrespectful. Should I have let them drive my car? Am I the asshole? Story 6. AITA for telling my girlfriend that I get to decide who lives in my house. Edit. I told her about it to discuss it with her in the sense that I let her know beforehand in advance so that she could prepare for it and to also get her opinion, but she was against it from the very beginning, but as they are my parents, I did not want her approval, per se. If that makes it clearer. And no, she doesn't pay the rent. She's from the same culture as I am and has taken care of her parents before. Not in the same way I did, but she's done a lot for them herself. Another edit, as some deemed it necessary, we've been together for around 5 to 7 months. Underscore 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 un. My girlfriend Alice, 34F, and I, 34M, have been together for a while now. Although we are not married, we live in my house. We were discussing marriage options, though. The issue is, as my parents are getting older and I had recently moved to the USA, I wanted them to remain together with me, and so did they. I offered to bring them here, and they were agreeable to the idea. But I did not want to leave them alone or to just get a house for them like that, so I asked them to live with me. When Alice heard about it, she was against the idea. She said that I can't just invite someone else to live with us, and I told her that it was not just someone else and that we are talking about my parents. She said that she does not want that, and asked me why I am even doing it. I told her, well, they are my parents, and I want to look after them. I am not asking you to do that either. She protested by saying that I am valuing my parents more than her and asked me to just get them to an old age home or something. I lost my temper at that and told her to mind her own business, and that it's against my values to just abandon my parents once they get old. It resettled into a full-blown argument, and in the end I told her I get to dictate who lives in my house, so don't interfere in my affairs. She's now sour with me and is not talking to me, but I wonder whether I did anything wrong. AITA? Story 7. AITA for not holding my father's blessing to a high standard. Me, 20F, and my now fiancé, 22M, have been dating for 2.5 years, May 12, 21, and engaged since November 19, 23. My dad has been off and on in my life due to divorce. He was overall a good dad in my early childhood until I became aware of his toxic traits. My parents divorced in 2014 and got remarried in 2015. I met my significant other in 2021 while my dad was still in the picture. Boyfriend and dad had a good relationship starting. They went hunting together, hung out during holidays, etc. for the first year of us being together. All good vibes. Fast forward to early 2022, my mom finds evidence of my dad's infidelity in the relationship. Her and I and my 2 younger siblings leave since they are officially divorcing again. Meanwhile, my father proceeds to send threatening text messages and calls to my mother for a whole year, tried to pick up my siblings from school without her knowledge, she has guardianship, and numerous narcissistic behavioral issues. There were instances he was showing manipulative behaviors towards me while in contact with him, so due to the circumstances, I kept our relationship at an arm's length and haven't kept in much contact with him since. It was evident he had persons of the opposite sex, or at least a GF, living with him while my siblings went over for appointed visits. There was DV between him and his GF and he went to jail overnight for it. My mom made it known to the court that what was going on wasn't appropriate and my dad decided to argue that I shouldn't have my boyfriend over overnight, since he is also an individual of the opposite sex, either while my siblings were home. This felt like a personal attack. Dad had nothing against him before and I feel like he did this on purpose to get under my mind and my mom's skin. So the divorce decree was set and he got his way. I decided to move out and move in with a friend to help her and to also have no more regulations on BF coming over. All was going well. Fast forward to today's time, significant other proposes with my mother's approval and I say yes. Pictures of the engagement are posted on FB by my future mill and dad sees. Dad decides to comment these words for all to see, I think some young man needs to speak with her father. I'm very old school, and this has me incensed. He then proceeds to make a public post, you need to come ask me for my daughter's hand. I'm old school, and you are starting this off already unblessed. Who out there thinks a young man should still ask a young lady's father for her hand in marriage? This embarrassed me and my fiancé, with numerous. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.